Hey guys, welcome to the channel. And today I've got one of my top mentees, Sam Gallagher. Sam, welcome to the channel.
Cheers, bro. Thank you very much for having me.
No problem at all. So today Sam's going to tell us about his journey in rent to rent. Sam was actually my first mentee back in 2021.
21.
2021 is coming up to 3 years now.
3
Because I
years.
remember I started this mentorship program in April.
Yep.
And then a couple of weeks later, we was talking in Facebook, I think. Facebook
Facebook,
group.
yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Facebook, that's where I found you.
Okay, cool. So, firstly, just tell the viewers at home where you're currently at in your business right now, the results that you've got, and then we'll rewind to the beginning on your journey and how you got started.
Yeah, sure. So, obviously, just to create like a snapshot of where the business is at now. Um, Obviously, we're nearly 3 years in, and I would say between the first, so when I hit like the first year and a half point, leading from that point up to 2.5 years in, which is roughly where we're at now.
Yeah.
That time frame, the business made 250,000.
Okay.
So obviously, I've gone from the 9 to 5 job
Yeah.
to now making 250,000 in this past year.
Decent. How many deals do you have?
So at the moment, 10.
10 deals.
Yeah.
How much income are you taking in each month?
So we're bringing in just over 20K a month on average, 20 to 22K roughly each month.
Decent. That's a nice bit of money then each month, right?
Yeah.
So let's rewind then back to the beginning. Tell us about the story of how me and you met.
Okay.
Tell me about where you was at in your entrepreneurial journey then, and then yeah, we'll take it from there.
Okay, good question. So obviously rewinding all the way back, talking a little bit about life before I met you
Yeah.
was crazy. It was just like unreal. I could have never have even imagined life would be like that. Because at the point I met you, I was in like such a toxic relationship. Um,
Right.
and obviously once I actually joined you, as you know, which we can get into in a minute, I spoke to you a lot about it. And I think even you
Not
thought it was a little bit
not
crazy.
not right from the start, but we've been speaking for a while at this
Yeah,
point.
just
I think
after.
I think you joined, and then a little bit after a few weeks,
Yeah,
yeah, we was talking a lot
yeah.
because you was my first client, so I had all the time to kind of just have that back and forth with you every day, right?
That's it, yeah.
And then yeah, I remember you because the thing is in the business, you either have it's either mindset challenges or it's strategy.
Yeah.
And then there was some mindset challenges. So that's the place we was working at the beginning, wasn't it?
100%.
Yeah.
But yeah, even prior to obviously meeting you, I'd done obviously a lot of other training. I think at the point of meeting you, I'd spent round about 25 to 27,000, something around that,
Yeah.
with another training company, then another person who's actually in property. And I'd been trying to actually make it work
Mm.
for, by that point, about 2 years, I think it was, just over, and got absolutely nowhere. So you could say that money was wasted, but in a way it wasn't wasted because it taught me lessons.
Yeah.
And
You make mistakes along the way.
that's it. And I think
Yeah.
that's one of the biggest, I suppose, things I've learned is you learn from your failures, you learn from your mistakes. And that's one of the things you've
Yes.
also like brought out in me more and more.
Yeah.
So yeah, prior to obviously meeting you, done other training, didn't get nowhere with it, was just in the standard 9 to 5 life with normal jobs. I'd only ever had like warehouse jobs. I'd worked at McDonald's. The time I met you, I was working at the local hospital as a porter.
Yeah.
So not even as people expect anything special like a doctor, a surgeon.
Yeah.
I was just a porter. So I didn't actually have like thousands and thousands of pounds like behind me that people think.
What was it like at the hospital? I didn't actually ask you too much about that. Like, what was the work like? What was your role and how long was you working? Like, how was that job?
Yeah, so I think actually by the point I met you, I'd been there nearly 3 years, about 2.5 years,
Yeah.
something like that. And as a porter, it involves like a lot of walking. So I was doing like 30,000 steps a day, but it can be rewarding in the sense of you're helping people.
Yeah.
because you would be transporting patients around the hospital,
Yeah.
any like stock that come in, I don't know, bandages, plasters, all
Yeah.
the stock that the wards use,
Getting a
you'd
lot
be
of cardio
delivering
in
that.
as well.
Yeah. So you'd be transporting everything, anything that moved in the hospital,
Yeah.
you moved it basically.
Yeah.
So it was rewarding in the sense of you was helping people who are sick,
Yeah.
helping people who are potentially dying. Um, so it was rewarding in that sense, but in the terms of like what it does for your life, you as a person, it wasn't rewarding because it was just again a normal 9 to 5 job, nothing like super crazy in terms of wages. It was just a normal
Yeah.
wage. And like I guess like you get in most jobs, behind the scenes, the
Mm.
people who actually work there, it wasn't that every person was nice. You get a lot of backstabbing, a lot of name calling, and
Yeah.
all
And
that
you,
sort of
and you can't
stuff.
choose the you can't choose the people that you work with
No,
when you're in a normal job, right? As well.
that's it. So
You're kind of stuck.
unfortunately, it it, it doesn't help in a way. So that's where you kind of obviously have to separate yourself, otherwise it starts taking a toll on you.
Yeah, yeah. So you said like a 9 to 5 job, but yours wasn't a 9 to 5 job though. Because I remember what time did you used to wake up in the morning?
Yeah, so even though I call it a 9 to 5 job, it
Yeah.
really wasn't because I was waking up at like 4:30 in the morning, going
Yeah.
to work, working all day. Yes, I finished in the afternoon, but for me as a person, that was like on another level because I've never been a morning person.
Yeah.
Getting up early for me is like just never going to
Unnatural for
happen.
you.
So it was
Yeah.
so hard for me to get up. And do you want to know something pretty funny?
Go on then.
Everyone actually might find this pretty funny. So when I would wake up at that time in the morning, from the point of waking up to the point of going to work, everything I did, so in terms of
Mm.
making my breakfast, making a brew, I always tried to do it with my eyes closed,
Oh, to
just so
try and
I
get
could
extra
try.
sleep in.
Yeah. So I would actually be
That's
making a
jokes.
brew, trying to pour the water in the cup
Yeah.
with my eyes
It's like
closed.
when you need the toilet and that, like, you turn the light on. You don't want to.
That's it.
Yeah, you squint your eyes so you can go back to sleep. It's the same kind of thing, right? Trying to
Yeah.
get that extra sleep in.
So
That's jokes.
that was me. And if I managed to like make my brew quick enough, have my breakfast quick enough,
Yeah.
I'd take it a step further. I would actually lie down on the couch in the front for 10 minutes if I could, with my
Yeah.
eyes shut, then go and get in the shower. So,
Right. Okay.
yeah,
So you used to get up really early for work. Didn't like the toxic environment, right?
yeah.
So how did you get introduced into the property world or like rent to rent? Like, what did you hear about first?
So it was property that I heard about first. If people who watch this are in property or they're getting into property, they'll know the book that I'm going to say. It was Rich Dad Poor
Yeah.
Dad
Yeah.
by Robert
Say that.
Kiyosaki,
Yeah.
and that's what most people I find when I speak to them started with.
Yeah.
Um, it obviously it's a book about it has property in there, but it's a like real eye opening book
Mm.
in terms of it opens your eyes to
Yeah.
the standard 9 to 5 life
Yeah.
is not just the be all and end all. There are other avenues in life.
Mm.
So that's how I discovered property. And in that book, they actually offered like a free seminar you could go to. So that's when I went to the seminar, learned that there is different property strategies.
Yeah.
Um, and for me, then obviously one of the property strategies they mentioned at that like free seminar was rent to rent,
Yeah.
and it clicked in my head that right, okay, it's low barrier to entry in terms of money you need. You don't need like thousands like for a refurb, a deposit, etc. So that was then putting two and two together. Right, I can do this, get out my 9 to 5 job, and if I really take the action and properly go for it, I should be able to do it pretty quick.
Yeah.
And that's the end of the 9 to 5 life. So that's how rent to rent come about then.
What made you believe that you could do it?
Just me as a person. It was, I've always been this person that I've always wanted my own business. I've always wanted to work for myself, but
Yeah.
everything I've done, I've always tried to be the best at it. So maybe a daft example, but just to explain it would be like when you're younger and you play your PlayStation games, or like you're playing Call of
Gaming.
Duty and
Yeah, yeah.
you've got like your Call of Duty leaderboards,
Yeah, you want to get
I
those
want to be
up.
number one.
Yeah.
So that was the attitude that I always had with everything,
Competitive spirit. Yeah.
to always like win.
Yeah. So so you read the book. When is it when you read the book? How long ago was that now then?
So that would have been in
5 years ago.
2018.
Yeah. So you read the book, you joined the seminar, and then like what happened after the seminar? Like what
That was at the point where, like I mentioned earlier, that was like kind of what you call the spiraling out of control point, because I joined, they had a basic course, what they called the basic. So you would do the free seminar, then they'd offer you the basic course, which
yeah.
was, I think, if £1,000, if I remember correctly. So I joined that, and at this point, I was with my girlfriend, so we decided we was going to do it together. So we joined
Start
the
the business
basic.
together. Or
Yeah,
do the program together.
yeah, do the program together, and start up the property business together, because we envisioned ourselves being together forever, like you
Yeah.
do. So we signed up for the basic, which was £1,000. So that's £1,000 already counting. Then at the basic course, they offered advanced courses, like but different packages, and each package had a certain amount of advanced courses. And say the package had 5 advanced courses, that meant out of every single advanced course, you could pick whichever 5 you wanted to do. So I bought one of the advanced packages, and I think that was about 24,000. So I didn't even have that money. So
Mm,
we actually took out a loan. Well, I did personally, because the girlfriend couldn't get a loan at that point.
yeah.
So we had a bit of savings, and I took out like a huge loan, pretty much most of the 24K. So by that point was then 25K into it.
Yeah.
And just after we did purchase the advanced courses, we actually split up, and I think it was partly this property thing. She was all for it first, but
Mm,
I think for whatever reason she fell into the mindset of not seeing it working. But
right.
the mistake that I made was that huge chunk of loan was in my name. But once we'd split up, it just for me give me even more fire in my belly, even
To do
more.
it yourself.
Yeah, 100%. And
Yeah.
even more attitude that I always have is never ever give up. So it gave me even more of that, because now I was a huge amount in debt. So for me, I
That would
had to
motivate
make it
anyone.
work.
25 grand.
Yeah,
I mean, like the good thing that you can take out of that is you must have really believed in yourself to spend 25 grand.
yeah,
You must have really believed that you was going to get that money back, which you have now. If you think of like in
yeah,
terms of on a macro scale of your whole journey, you got that, but from that program you didn't get the return, right? But to put 25 grand in, you must have believed in yourself a lot, and that's one of the biggest. That's one of the biggest things. Would you say when you're starting, it's not so much about strategy; it's about belief.
yeah. I would say
Yeah,
definitely belief is one of the big things. You've got to believe you can do it, because I, in fact, it was actually not so long ago. It cropped up again somewhere, this quote, and I can't remember where I've seen it, but I've seen it multiple times now along my journey. And if I remember correctly, it reads, "If you believe you can,
you can.
you can.
If you
If you
believe you
believe you
can't, if you
can't,
believe you can, you're right. If you believe you can't, you're right.
that's it."
That's
Yeah.
yeah, that's how it goes.
So whatever you believe,
Who said that?
that's
I
what's
can't
going to
remember.
happen.
I don't know where. I think I've heard a few people say that. I don't know the original.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know who the original person is, but it literally cropped up, and I think it was only about a week ago. It cropped up somewhere for me again, and it
yeah,
was just again that mindset of thinking to yourself, "Well, whatever I do, if I believe I can do it,
yeah.
it's going to happen. If I believe I can't do it,
Yes.
I've already taught myself out of it, and it's not going to happen."
I think that's the main thing when you're starting. Different stages of your journey require different things.
Yeah,
So now it's more about time management, strategy, making the right decisions.
yeah,
But at the beginning, it is about belief. It's like visualization, belief, because you can very easily, like, you don't know if you can do it at this stage because you've never done it before. So one day you might believe you can, the next day you can't believe you can't, right?
yeah,
And that can make you quit. Some people, they end up quitting.
yeah,
So if you need that belief, you need that visualization to pull you through until you actually start seeing something work. At the beginning, you need that, even if it's delusional belief.
Yeah, and
You know?
I think also you like one thing I thought was you could look at that with everything as well, because even going like say back to when we're all kids,
Yeah,
and I don't mean like as a baby, but once you just get in say like maybe 4, 5, 6 years old, well, what's one of the big things we do as a kid? We learn to ride a bike.
yeah,
So we've again learning to ride a bike, we don't give up even if we fall off, we still believe we can do it. We get back on the bike, we fall again, and we keep doing it and doing it and doing it, and eventually we succeed.
yeah,
But it's that belief that we can ride that
yeah.
bike.
It's like you say you don't take it that far back, but you actually do, because every baby
Yeah.
believed that they was going to end up walking. They didn't give up and halfway through and think, you know what? I don't think this is. I don't think walking's for me. And
That's
now they
it.
just walk. They crawled around for the rest of their life. Now everyone figured that part out.
Yeah,
They had to fall down thousands of times,
yeah,
but they knew that eventually they was going to do it. But we should be implementing that as adults. Why do we stop doing that? You know, people. It's like people say to me, and they probably say to you as well. It's like, oh, yeah, most agents don't want to do company let. They don't want to work with rent to renters. Yeah, I'm getting loads of no's. Yeah, like that's why it's not working for me. Yeah, that's how that's how it is.
yeah,
If every agent was going to say yes to you, everyone would have 1,000 rent to rent deals by now.
yeah. Exactly.
So that's normal. It's like to do something difficult, it takes many times of trying. So
Yeah,
that numbers game is the same thing. It's like when you're learning to walk, you're not going to walk the first time you try. You're going to have to try hundreds and hundreds of times. Same when you want to get your rent to rent deal, right?
yeah, 100%.
How many calls? I don't think it took you that many though. So it didn't take me too many either. But how many calls did it take you to get your first rent to rent deal? And how many viewings? How many offers?
I can't remember like even a rough average of how many calls, but what I can give a context on would be so again, just to give a bit of background, obviously we met in the April of 2021, and as we said before, like I was going through a bit of like a relationship problem and stuff like that. So we didn't actually, or I didn't actually start to properly take action on the rent to rent stuff
Yeah.
until it was like June 2021, or literally the last couple of days of
All
May.
right, because you joined in April,
Yeah,
but then you had the mindset. So to tell us about that journey from when you joined
yeah,
till June. Then, like what? Because that was 2 months of like
yeah,
I almost thought you was gonna quit.
yeah. Well, that
Yeah,
was it.
it sounded like, thinking, oh, I've seen this before. With people like, oh, this happened. It's always something from their personal life,
Yeah.
right? And then you think, so I kept checking in and stuff. But yeah, I thought that at that point you might not come back. So tell us the story, that story.
Yeah, I mean, it all goes back to that attitude of never ever give up, no matter what happens.
Mm,
And again, I don't just mean what happens in property, but anything. So even what's happening in your life, never ever give up. So I was obviously going through like a really bad point in my personal life, in the relationship.
yeah,
The relationship was so toxic in terms of I didn't even know what was going on to myself, what was being done to me.
like what do you
And
mean?
basically now when I can look back on it and see it, I was sort of being manipulated, being controlled.
Mm,
Everything was made out to be my fault. And there'd be so many arguments happening for probably looking back now, nonsense reasons, but it was always coming back to my fault no matter what happened.
yeah,
And if you do that, obviously, to somebody like enough times over and over again, it's well, I know from self proof, it's going to affect them eventually.
yeah,
And for me, well, in that April, we just split up, and it was because she cheated on me. So I had that to also contend with,
that,
along with the manipulation, everything. But again, what happened? It was made out to be my fault.
yeah,
And even though we'd split up, she still didn't leave me alone. Like I was getting hundreds of phone calls every single day.
mm,
So it was all mounting up and up and up. And I come to the point of, at the time, what I'd say depressed.
yeah,
So I was at the doctor's, I was on tablets. But now looking back on it, and this is going to sound crazy, but I don't feel like depression's real. And the reason I don't feel it's real is because if it was real and it was a medical condition, well then it you wouldn't be able to get out of it so easy in the way of what I did in terms of in the space of that April to that June, which is like you say is only 2 months.
Yeah.
The thing that got me out of this, what I now call so-called depression, was doing rent to rent. And
Yeah.
it was the fact that I said to myself, never ever give up.
You focused on yourself.
I then started
Yeah.
to actually take the action. We did it a bit at a time, one step at a time. We took the action a bit at a time. And that's then what pulled me out of this so called depression.
Yeah.
So for me, I now say, well, how can depression be an actual real thing if just the simple thing of taking action on a business can get you out of it?
Yeah, I
So,
definitely think like the feelings are real. But I definitely feel like it's probably easier to get out of than a lot of people realize.
yeah,
I think like taking physical action definitely helps you. Like even just go to the gym. Like you never go and have a gym
yeah,
session and then you can't feel bad in a gym session when when you're working out, it's just good endorphins.
yeah,
But it just shows you like taking physical action normally helps. So that's like a short term solution, but long term thing is just focus on something yourself, take action on it every day. Obviously, it still must have been hard at that time.
yeah.
Like, how did you manage to like, what did you do to keep yourself going? Like, obviously, day by day, it must have been affecting you, right? But how did you find when you started taking action again
So I
in terms of
used
dealing with like what happened with your relationship?
So I used the concept. Well, at first it was just my concept in my head, what I'd come up with. But now, like now I'm in business, now the business is successful. I know that a lot of other people say this concept and use this concept, but for me, it was always just do one thing to do with property, whether that was watch a video, whether that was read some knowledge on it, whether it was to just make one phone call, whatever it was, just do one thing a day to do with property.
Yeah,
And it was that what I believe that massively helped because it went along with the attitude of never ever give up.
mm,
So no matter what was going on around me, no matter how bad I felt, no matter if I felt tired, if I felt upset, if I felt angry, whatever it was, I always did that one thing to do with property.
yeah,
And now, like I say, I know a lot of people use that concept as in if you can just be 1% better every single day, 1% better than
yes,
yesterday.
yeah,
So that compounds over time.
yeah,
And I think that's where it come from in the fact of when it got to the end of the May, just going into June, and I started to properly take the action on the rent to rent business. Like that one action a day was going into the rent to rent business rather than just property in
yeah,
general. It was like making that one phone call, making that one message,
yeah,
finding that one deal on Rightmove, and that compounded. So I can't remember like we was going on about before how many calls I made, but it was only a short space of time. I think it was like 2, 3 weeks before that first deal got accepted, and then I remember we went through negotiations with it for a couple of weeks. So that led us into July, and then we finally picked the keys up at the beginning of August.
Tell us a story about like the process of what you was doing to get that deal secured. Because I remember, I'm just trying to remember back now because it's like a long time ago. So I remember that you was at one point you was doing calls, but you didn't like doing calls as much. We realized that you was better more of an in person
Yeah,
um communicator, and you just preferred that getting out of the house, meeting people face to face. You're good. You have good social skills. You prefer to be have a real interaction, right? When we switched that up, that worked better for you.
yeah,
I remember that, but I also remember, didn't you knock on someone's door and like one of the addresses that you found online, and then you end up speaking to one of the neighbors,
yeah,
and then because of like your good people skills, they let you in the house. They took you in the back garden to show you the back of the house and that, right?
yeah.
So it just shows you like it's a people's business. It's about building relationships. And then I don't know how the connection happened. Was that the deal that you secured, or was that a different one? Tell us
No.
about that, and then tell us about what how you actually come about securing that deal, or like what problems did you have? What struggles did you have?
Yeah, so That one wasn't actually the first deal I got, but it was round about the time I was trying to get my first deal.
Yeah.
And you're quite right in what you said. Obviously, one of the key concepts is making calls to agents, making calls to landlords, somebody who can give you a deal, basically. And for me, obviously, I could do them. It wasn't that I couldn't get on the phone, or it wasn't that like I was fumbling on the phone. It was just for whatever reason I didn't like them. And I was making calls, but like you said, I just preferred in-person stuff. I'd rather have a conversation like we are now in person,
Yeah.
meet somebody, you can see them face to face, you can smile at them, whatever it is. And so we obviously tweaked the strategy. We continued to obviously make calls, but we made it so that I was putting more time into going doing the face to face stuff.
Yeah.
So like the one you said a minute ago, obviously I went to a viewing and I did the viewing, great. But then I wanted to try and further it and get to the landlord. So obviously I knocked on the neighbour's door to see if they knew the landlord. And she had a conversation with me. She knew the landlord. And again, I think it was just that social interaction, the social skills. She even said to me, "Oh, come on through the house, come to the back. Like you can have a look at the back of the neighbour's property and all that
You
jazz."
must
And
have built up a lot of trust just in that
in that
initial,
short space of
yeah,
time.
for her to let
Yeah.
you in the house and
Yeah,
yeah,
I
and take you
was
into the back garden and that.
I was
So
surprised myself with that.
yeah, so yeah, that just shows you that everybody has their own strengths.
Yeah,
So there's not just one way that you can secure a deal. There's loads of different types,
yeah,
and different ways are going to be easier for other people. For certain people, like some people, they're not very good at speaking face to face.
yeah,
They might be better on the phone. They can just dial just one after another. They might have had a previous role in a cold calling center, and they would be better on the phone because they know
yeah,
how to do like 300 dials in a day or something like that. You know.
yeah.
So it's about tailoring the strategy to suit your own strengths. I think that's the best way to actually go about getting the deal. When you say,
Yeah, and I think that was one of, like, the massive qualities of yourself because obviously you was my mentor, and it wasn't just you weren't just giving me, like, a course to read and then just answering me questions and things in a generalized way.
yeah,
Like you've just said, you tailored everything to me as a person.
mm,
So you wasn't just saying to me, "Oh, yes, Sam, just make the calls, just make the calls, just make the calls."
yeah,
You was asking me questions to find out what's going on behind the scenes, and then quite rightly altered the strategy slightly,
yeah.
tailored it to fit me, and that's where obviously then results started to build up a little bit, and that's when the first deal come about.
So how did that compare to like the other mentorship that you're in? Because you said the 25 grand one that you joined,
Yeah,
and then you said that didn't work. So how did that? I'm guessing that was very different to the way I done things because you was with them for a couple of years, right,
yeah,
or something like that, and then with me it was just a few weeks, a couple of months or something, right?
yeah.
So what was the difference?
With that, it was completely different in terms of the way they did it was in what I'd say is a classroom environment.
Yeah,
So there might have been maybe 50, 75 people in the room. It was just
I
tables.
hate that setup. That's yeah.
Yeah,
For me, I had ADHD in school, so I could never take things in that. I like to be
yeah.
one on one with someone, or just going through a course by myself. I can't do the classroom thing.
Yeah, I mean, same for me. I never really liked school or anything like that. So this environment definitely didn't suit me straight away. So,
Yeah,
like I say, in a room, you'd have loads of people. The tables would be laid out in like
yeah.
a school setting, row after row.
It's so generic as well. You can't have a back and forth.
Yeah,
You might go through the whole day and not even manage to get a question answered.
it was even like that sometimes.
Yeah, yeah.
And at the front, it'd basically be like a big
Some
screen.
people are not comfortable about putting their hand up in front of 75 other people and asking a question either.
But that's
That's what I
it.
would have been like when I first
Yeah.
started. So they're
Um,
not really gonna get to they're not really gonna get if they don't understand something, they just continue the training course, right?
Yeah, they don't get the
The
support.
class. Yeah,
And
yeah.
that was one of the worst things about it. Like say it was just like a PowerPoint presentation, the speaker would just be pointing at it. And again, even worse, you
Just
just
like
have to make
school.
your own notes.
Just like school.
Exactly like
Yeah.
school. You'd have to make your own notes. And at the end of like, I think there were 3 days, these courses. At the end of the 3 days, it was almost kind of like, right, you've done now. See you later. That's it.
That was the
There's no
25 grand
yeah. So
in that,
you
the 3 days.
I got
Is there course content or any like documentation or anything? But
no, not really. You just got a work. Well, it was called a workbook, but it was
yeah,
basically just a copy of the PowerPoint presentation, and that was it.
how many, do you know anything about their client results?
I don't know.
I just can't see how you can teach someone to start and scale a business in one session.
No, well, looking
You
back
know
at
what I
it
mean?
now, obviously because the bit my business is now successful in rent to rent, looking back at what they was doing and what they was
You
teaching,
know that you can't learn that way.
there was a
Yeah,
lot missing. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
a lot
You need
missing.
back and forth because you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah,
So it's kind of like when you was making the calls and then you wasn't managed to do enough outbound and was like, oh, let's switch the strategy. That can't be discussed in like a 3 day generic
no,
class. You know?
no. So all it was is it was just all basic information, like a basic outline of rent to rent and
Yeah,
the different like sections of it, like market research, finding deals, all just basic stuff. So when you was going away with this basic stuff, you had an understanding
yeah,
of it, but not enough of like anything exactly how to or exactly step by step or anything detailed. And if you had any questions or problems,
mm.
well, who was there to help you? There was nobody.
How long did it take you to get over like losing that 25 grand? You still ain't over
I
it,
don't think I still,
right?
even though it's like done, paid off, I
That's a
still
lot of
haven't got
money,
over
man.
that. Yeah,
Yeah, especially for
because
like when you're first starting out as well. Because yeah,
like for me now, I'm still not over it because that 25 grand for me is like I could have
you
five rent to rent
you put a
deals.
deposit down on a house
I
like
could buy
somewhere.
an
Yeah,
house.
yeah,
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 exactly. So
yeah.
it's not a small amount of money.
Yeah. But it's just like you're never gonna go through your journey without making mistakes.
No,
You know,
no.
I've taken on a deal that I ended up investing more money, much more money than I thought I would. You know what I mean? It, like I spent
Yeah,
at least 15 grand more than I thought I would, right?
yeah,
You're never gonna go all the way in a straight line. It's kind of like, you get a diagram of like this is what success is like, and it's like along
yeah,
the way, and then it's like up. That's more like what it's like, right?
yeah. I think it's almost like one step forward, six steps back, two steps forward, eight steps back. It's constantly
Sometimes.
like, yeah.
Sometimes, yeah,
It's
yeah.
never
But
just
eventually it is more steps forward because otherwise you wouldn't be where
yeah,
you are now, right?
yeah,
So that was your first deal. That's the story of coming into the property world,
yep.
your experiences, the challenges that you had at the beginning, then getting your first deal.
Mm-hmm.
So take us through the journey of the first deal. How many deals do you have now? 11?
10 now.
10.
Yeah.
Take us through that journey from 1 to 10. Like how did that go? How did you end up getting the other ones?
It's like a snowball effect. Like you always hear people say it snowballs after your first one, and it really was. So obviously, I had the first one in July 2021. Like I said, well, it was accepted like
Yeah.
in June. Picked the keys up in the August, but it was accepted. So to me, that's the first deal. Um, so that was the first one. The second one came in the November, so only a couple of months later, and that was just again from the same estate agent as the first one. And I can only put that down to it was the relationship I'd already built up
Relationship,
with them
yeah.
so quick. They've
That was your strength. Everyone has their own strength.
yeah,
You're good at the relationship building.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's how the second one came about. So that was only a couple of months after the first one. Then I actually left my job after that.
Oh, was it after it was only after the
After the
second one?
second
Oh,
one,
yeah, how
yeah.
much money was you making at your job? We missed that bit out because I remember. How much is it?
So at the job, I was getting £860 a
Yeah.
month.
So what one deal kind of covered that, right?
Yeah, the
So it
one
made
deal
sense
was
after.
pretty much there.
Yeah.
So the second one, once it like way
Yeah.
outweighed my wage, it was enough then to say, right, I
You wasn't
can,
holding on to much
yeah,
to get that £870.
yeah.
Right.
So that was the second one in the November 2021. The third one came in, I think it was about February. So only a couple of months later again, got it accepted. I think I got the keys in the March. So that was 2022.
Yeah.
The fourth one came in the April, so like a month later. The fifth one came, I think it was in the June, so only a couple of months later
And
again.
all of these are through the same agent.
Same
Yeah,
agent,
yeah.
yeah. So the fifth one came, I think it was in the June. That was accepted. We picked the keys up, I think, the August. And then the sixth one, that was again in the September. So only like a month or two later again. The seventh one was in the November
You remember all
2022.
all the months, all the
Yeah.
dates. Yeah.
So that was a couple of months later again. The eighth one, I got accepted a month later. It was literally like Christmas time, 2022. Picked the keys up in the January, so just after New Year, because
Yeah.
of Christmas, New Year, the agents shut and things like that. So we picked the keys up in January 2023,
Yeah.
but that was with a different agent.
And these are so up until this many deals.
Yeah.
What deals are we at now?
So
8?
we're on 8 now.
These are all HMO deals, right?
All HMO deals,
Okay.
all through agents.
So explain what a HMO deal is, just because some people
Yeah.
don't even know they only just find out what rent to rent is, right? So what's HMO?
Yeah,
What's a
sure.
rent to HMO deal?
So very, very basic description of it is HMO, house and multiple occupancy.
Yeah.
So you could have 4 rooms or more. It doesn't really work less than 4 rooms, so it has to be 4 rentable rooms or more. And you have like a different person staying in each room. So you will rent out each room to a different person.
Shared accommodation.
Yeah. Shared accommodation is another name. And what we'll typically do is we'll make it as easy as possible for our tenants to give them the best possible service in way of we'll pay all the bills. Obviously, we'll make sure the property is done up to a nice standard.
Yeah.
And we'll maintain the property to a high standard. And that's typically what a HMO
And then
is.
you let it out on the main portal is spareroom.com, which
Yeah.
a lot of people will know what that is.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
probably the biggest one in the UK, and that's where most people look for rooms. So obviously, we'll naturally advertise on there and showcase our rooms.
Okay, so you got your first 8 rent to rent deals, HMOs.
Yep.
So also rent to rent as well. So explain to some of the people watching what rent to rent as well. So what rent to rent is as well. So rent to rent.
Yep.
How would you explain that?
Very simple, really. You're just getting a property,
Yeah.
renting it off a landlord, and then you're re-renting it out. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, as long as you've got consent from the landlord.
And it's on the right contract.
You've got a contract in place,
Not a
which
tenancy
the
agreement.
correct contract.
Yeah. A lot of people think it's illegal. A lot of people are going to comment below, this is subletting, it's illegal, all that kind of stuff. It is subletting, but it's not illegal.
Exactly.
Because you're doing it in a legal way. Subletting can be done in a legal way.
Yeah.
It can be done in an illegal way.
Yeah.
So illegally would be signing a normal tenancy agreement where you're supposed to be living in the property, but you've subletted it on. You haven't told the landlord. So in the contract is not the legit.
Yeah.
And you've kind of gone behind the landlord's back, and someone else is staying there that's not supposed to be there. So you have to have a management agreement, company let agreement.
Yeah.
And have consent from the landlord, then it's completely above board. It's completely legal, and there's thousands of people doing this in the UK, let alone the rest of the world. It's big in the US, Australia, Dubai. Everywhere's doing it, right?
Yeah, it seems like it's just a really growing strategy at the moment. A lot of people seem to be doing it, and not like you say, not just in the UK, but around the world. I've seen people doing it in other countries, and I think it's again, personally, and I've done it personally, I think it's a great strategy for people who are just getting into property or wanting to get into property.
Yeah.
Whether that's because they want to leave the 9 to 5 job like I did, or they just want some extra cash flow in order to build up a cash pot to maybe go and purchase properties.
Yeah.
I think it's a great strategy because it's so low barrier to entry.
Yes.
And anybody can do it.
Yeah, I also think some people invest too early as well. So they might even not have their cash flow up.
Yeah.
But they save up their money, they put it into an investment property. Now their cash flow is still low.
Yeah.
And they haven't even changed their life. Like their day-to-day life is still the same. They still can't go on a holiday. They're still stuck in a 9 to 5. I think fix your cash flow first, and then invest the money that when you've got an excess of money that you got too much to know what to do with it.
Yeah.
Then rather than it depreciating in the bank, then put it into something. That's the way to do it, I think, right? Because then cash flows your money for today, and then your investments is your money for the future.
Yeah.
but we want money now, all right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I'd say don't rush it. Make sure you've got like a solid business in place first. It's running like as smooth as possible, and like you say, you've got a good amount of cash flow coming in before you decide to just run off and do something else or run off and purchase properties.
Yeah. Okay, so 8 deals in, HMOs,
Yeah.
they're all HMOs. Now what happens after that?
So for whatever reason, I took a bit of a gap after that, and that was from round
I
about
think you was having some challenges again, wasn't it? Like mindset challenges, like
yeah,
doing the calls and stuff like that again,
yeah,
which is fine. It's like, yeah, you can tell them that bit as well.
yeah.
But
Looking back,
what challenges was you facing?
so a lot of mindset really. It was just, I guess, a bit of comfort as well. I'd got obviously the eight HMOs, got like some good cash flow coming in, so I'd hit maybe a bit of a comfort level, and like I was just saying then, trying to maybe think of rushing off to something else, and everything was just kind of all over the place really.
Yeah,
And we're all human at the end of the day. We're not robots, but the beauty of it again is the support, people around you, reining it back in. But that lasted for a couple of months, and then I decided, right, no, let's stick with the rent to rent. Let's build the business to what it needs to be before we run off, before we do anything else.
yeah,
And I decided at that point to diversify into getting some service accommodation units.
yeah. So
It interested me.
explain what what service accommodation is now then.
Yeah, so service accommodation is a bit like just the opposite of HMOs. So again, rather than having like standard residents in the property, standard tenants where they will stay like a long term, typically minimum 6 months, well, now we're a bit more like a hospitality business, a little bit like how hotels are in regards to we'll have like nightly guests. Now, these nightly
It's like
guests,
Airbnb,
yeah,
Booking.com, that kind of stuff. Yeah,
yeah, they're obviously the online platforms. And these nightly guests, they don't necessarily just have to stay a couple of nights. These guests can still stay months at a time if we get the right bookings, but they're done on a nightly basis.
yeah. So so now you're doing a rent to rent HMO, rent to rent service accommodation. How many deals do you have now?
So 10 in total. We've got 8 HMOs and 2 serviced accommodation units.
And how much income do you take from all of them together?
So income each month, as I said before, is about 20 to 22k a month
20 to 20.
from all units. Yeah.
And then after expenses, how much profit?
After expenses, we're looking round about typically about 8k, 7 to 8k a month
Yeah.
on them.
And then if your old boss offered you your job back
Yeah.
at the hospital, what would you say? Would you go back?
I don't even
So
think
for the
I'd say
800
anything.
pound.
I'd probably just laugh and walk
Well,
off.
how much would someone have to pay you now to get up at 4 a.m.?
I don't even think they could pay me any amount of money to do
Nah.
that.
So what time do you get up at now?
Pretty much whenever I want.
Yeah. Like what's
No,
standard for you?
I mean, all joking aside, I could get up whenever I want,
Yeah.
but I typically get up between 8 and 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
I don't always have it strict 8 o'clock or a set time, but typically between 8 and 9.
Yeah.
Sometimes I may set my alarm for 8:30, sometimes 8, sometimes
I
9.
like to say I get up when I'm finished sleeping. That's it.
That's a good
I
way.
don't set up a set alarm. If I wake up, if I
Yeah,
still feel tired, that means I need more rest. I'm going to sleep. To me, it's important because I
yeah,
think if you sleep properly,
yeah,
you're going to be more energized for the day. You have more
yeah,
clarity in your thoughts.
yeah,
So I don't think it's good for me personally to force myself up. I haven't set alarm in a long time.
yeah,
Just get up. But then again, I don't get up too late anyway. I get up probably like similar, but 8 a.m. Sometimes it fluctuates. It goes up and down, but normally around 8 a.m. So you get up later now.
yeah.
You're making how much net profit again? Did you say
So
8K?
between 7 and 8k,
8K.
roughly.
So you're
Yeah,
almost 10x in what you was making at the hospital.
yeah.
And then how's your life changed? How's it actually changed your life like outside of business?
Hugely. I've got a nice car now that I really like. I got a BMW, one of my favorite types of cars.
Oh yeah, no, I like a car. You got it in the what color is it?
It's like not dark blue, but not like super light blue.
it's kind of similar to like like your brand with your rooms. I feel
Yeah,
like it matches the brand.
almost like a teal
It's
blue.
a similar to
Yeah,
like to the teal. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Funnily enough, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it matches.
yeah,
That's like your brand thing, isn't it? So in all of your properties, you have like feature walls with that nice teal blue color, right? So
yeah.
you can always tell it's your property with that, right?
Yeah, and I've even had people who's commented and who said, "Oh, yours is the one with the teal blue feature walls.
Yeah,
Yours is the one with teal blue rooms." So people have always picked up on that.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, we have that, which I guess kind of like matches the car, like you say.
yeah. That's the
But
brand. And then so you you got that £8,000
yeah,
per month. You're getting up when you want, and then how is it affecting things like what are you doing? Are you going on holidays? Are you what are you doing with your life?
yeah. So it makes it so. I mean, this is just really, really like general to some people, but this is super important, especially super important to me. Now, it allows me the time freedom so I can do the gym rather than having to be forced like to do the gym late or do it really early. I can actually properly hit the gym when I want to hit the gym. So that's one thing that it allows me to do, which is super important, which I think will transfer into the business anyway. Because
Yeah.
if you look after yourself, then it puts you in a much better.
Yeah, health. I always like to say health should come first. That
Yeah,
should always be the top. Because you look at someone like still Steve Jobs, you know,
yeah,
he had
yeah,
his health deteriorated. He built all of that wealth, and then like you can't take it with you, right? So
yeah,
health is key. So apart from health, like what other things are
yeah.
you getting
So
on with?
there's that. But yeah, it's allowed me to do a lot of other things now. Like this year, well, I've had one holiday previously, but this year now I've actually took a step back and said, "Do you know what? I've worked like hard for these couple of years. Let's like enjoy myself a little bit." So now this year in particular, it's allowed me to. I've already been to Cyprus this year. I'm going to Italy actually tomorrow,
Tomorrow morning,
snowboarding.
9:30 Heathrow.
That's it. Italy snowboarding. I'm going to Bali in May for 2 weeks.
Nice.
I'm planning to potentially go to Cyprus again near the end of the year, and I do want to visit a fifth country this year, which I have got the possibility to do it.
Do you know where yet, or do you have any ideas?
Funnily enough, I'm thinking maybe the Philippines. Here it's like really nice, tropical,
Yeah, I've
and
heard good
underrated.
things. Yeah, I would like to. I haven't been there myself yet, but that's on my list too.
Awesome. But yeah, it's allowed me to do that. Obviously, it's allowed me to pay off like the huge stupid debt as well that we
Uh,
spoke about.
yeah. That's all been cleared now, is
Yeah,
it?
that's been like long gone now. So it's like debt free, the car, holidays. It's allowed me to also buy like nice things for myself in terms like clothes, shoes.
Yeah.
I like to buy them sorts of things.
Okay, so it sounds like things have completely changed.
Yeah,
I mean, but it can't all be 100% perfect, right? There must still be some challenges you're facing now, right? So
yeah.
what kind of challenges are you facing now, like in
So
the business? Like which parts are you struggling with?
yeah, so for me now at this point, it's completely changed in terms of challenges, problems. So right now, one of my challenges is I have two staff members now.
Yeah,
So for me previously, rather than getting involved in problems, it's more so now managing the staff, which is
yeah,
a
we've been
completely
speaking,
different ball game.
but things have changed since we decided to you was going to speak to your staff
Yeah.
about the way things were going to be restructured and stuff. How things been going since then?
Yeah, so they have improved. I've still got a couple of challenges at the moment, but they have massively improved. But now, like I say, the problems are different, i.e., managing staff rather than going dealing with tenants myself or going
Yeah,
organising maintenance myself. So if there was like a leaky tap or something previously before the staff members, well, maybe I would either go and fix the tap myself
yeah.
and get
Your staff
involved,
were delegating the task to you, weren't they? Yeah.
or I
Oh,
would call a contractor myself.
yeah,
So I was really hands on with dealing with problems, whereas now the business is bigger and
yeah.
I've got staff members in place. Well, it's a whole different ball game again now.
All right. Sorry, you mean you was doing those tasks? Now you're giving it to the staff,
Yeah,
right? Yeah. Sorry, I remember there was a point when you was having troubles with the staff, but they was like passing the
Yeah.
half of the task back to you, and then you was having that challenge, right? But you kind of overcome that part now, right?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that was for a short period of time. That was really like nipped in the bud. That was overcome. That was solved pretty quick.
Yeah.
But prior
It's a
to
skill.
that,
It's a skill set, like hiring, recruiting,
yeah,
managing, training. Yeah, a big part of it is picking the right people, but also setting the right expectations.
yeah,
Sometimes you can have a good member of staff actually, but you just haven't laid down the right expectations, so they perform like a bad member of staff. So
yeah,
it just comes down to your laying down the expectations. They know what they can do, what they can't do, and then training them, and then just overseeing them, keep making sure that they're doing things right.
yeah. And I've had, again, challenges wise, I've had like both sides of that. So I've had the challenge of staff members just being like bad, no matter what I've done, and I've had to fire them. But I've also had the challenge of it's been on my side as well, where maybe the standards have not been in place or the correct training's not been quite on point. So it's not their fault, it's been my fault. And yeah, two different types of challenges there.
Nice. So you've overcome them challenges now, and what's the next step? What's the next step for you now? Then, so where do you plan to do? Sorry, where do you plan to go the remainder of the year, and then beyond that?
So at the moment, I made the decision I want to start purchasing. So I'm starting to learn that. I'm hoping to like maybe purchase a couple of properties this year and build that side of it, which is obviously the long term wealth, the long term game. But I think I also want to continue to build the rent to rent business because for me, yes, okay, when we said before 7 to 8 like net cash flow a month's like
Yeah,
really high to some people and that would change a lot of people's lives. But I think what people will find along the way is they'll get to like one level and then they'll say, right, well, that's not enough. No, I need more. So they may go to like 5K a month and then they'll get to that and it'll be like, right, well, that's not enough.
yeah,
So for me, I think I'm at one end points now where even though that's coming in,
yeah,
it's not enough. I still want to do more
yeah.
because,
I think it's the right decision because you're either growing or you're shrinking.
yeah,
So if you just stop, there's no such thing as maintenance. Like you're either growing or you're shrinking. So if it's choose one or the other.
yeah,
So whether you're growing, whether you're scaling fast, or even just like you're steady, just taking on an extra deal every now and then, I think for a business to survive, it always needs to be growing.
yeah,
Growth is just part of the business. It should be. It shouldn't be like, right, we're gonna get here, we're gonna stay there, because you're gonna shrink or you're gonna get wiped out.
yeah. And I think, yeah. So for me, like I say, I want to continue to grow this now because the cash flow I feel is not enough. But it also needs to
Because your
grow.
goals have got bigger. That's
Well,
why.
that's it. I think,
Because if you give yourself if you give Sam 8 grand per month back in 2020, that
yeah,
would have been more than enough. But now, new Sam's not enough, man. He
that's
needs to
it.
make more money. Goals got big eyes going on ski trips, Bali.
Yeah, that's it. I
Probably want to
think,
upgrade the car.
yeah, I think
Yeah,
what people will find is when obviously they do it, like I said, is they'll want a certain level and they'll have like goals in mind why they want that. Maybe it's 2K a month because that'll give them enough to leave the job and pay all the bills. And then once they hit that, yes, they'll leave the job and cover all the bills, but then they need to have something like another vision, another set of goals. Well, like you said, then it might be to upgrade the car, upgrade the house, or go on some holidays. Well, for that, you then need the next level. So they'll get to that
yeah.
and then again, they'll have different goals. Well, this year I want to go on 10 holidays. I want two
It's just
cars.
part of human nature.
Yeah,
You always
you
want
just keep
more. You
going.
always want more. I don't think it's a bad thing. We're built to build things and grow, right?
Yeah,
I think one saying is you should be happy with where you're at, but not never satisfied.
yeah,
Because being never satisfied means that you always strive for more,
yeah,
but not being grateful for where you're at and being happy, like you're never going to appreciate and live in the moment, right? You're always going to be chasing that thing.
yeah.
You're never going to enjoy your life, right? So have gratitude for where you're at, but always strive for more. That's the way I like to look at it.
Yeah, that's a good saying.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So what would you say then to people out there that are thinking about doing rent to rent? They're not too sure whether it's for them. For whatever reason, they might think, "Oh, I can't do this because I'm in a 9 to 5 job," or which I don't know which mentorship program to join because of there's ones out there like the one you joined, like they're having doubts in doing it. What would you say? What advice would you give to them?
I would say, can we swear on the podcast?
Yeah, you can swear on the
I would
podcast.
just
Yeah,
say, get off your fucking ass and
yeah,
just take the action.
yeah,
Don't be one of these people that just thinks you need knowledge, 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 because you'll never ever get anywhere.
yeah,
So, yes, you need the knowledge, but just take it all one step at a time. Take the action, and anybody can do it.
yeah.
But I think you should always have a couple of background things in terms of an attitude of never ever give up
Mm.
and just try and be 1% better every single day than you was yesterday.
1% better. I like that, man. All right. Anyway, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you very much, bro.
No worries, man.